Starting screen today, and we're on an off day. We usually
Well, that just shows the importance of this game.
and you're changing schedule.
Eh, hopefully not permanent.
Yeah, it shouldn't be permanent. Hopefully, you also talked about maybe finding yourself a new position, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
Yep.
We're here to discuss an 8-month-old game.
Longer than that. It was released last year in October, I think. October or November. It's almost a
Yeah,
year
so
old
10
game.
months.
Yeah,
Um, 10-month-old game, something that came out just well on Xbox like a week ago,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Shows how much I've been playing it.
I know it's already been 2 weeks. I'm kind of surprised by that. It
Wait,
came out on August 28th.
in that footage, were you punching a tree?
Shush.
Playing
Um,
Minecraft.
but we're here to talk about Return to Moria. Now, Return to Moria was a lovingly made game. Um, the developers put a lot of love into the game. They paid attention to Tolkien's work, which is something we shouldn't be surprised at, but we're like we are
Well, this isn't one of those big company. What are they called?
the AAA devs.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this was an indie studio that made this game, and the fact that they made such a large game is impressive.
I'm more surprised that it took 13 gigabytes.
It's such a small game, and I think that's due to the procedural generation.
Yeah, because even with, so I have now 3 maps, and my profiles are only taking up 1 gig.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this like before as we get into the actual meat and bones of Moria. I should introduce everybody to what it is. Return to Moria is a survival crafting exploration game. What it is you've fallen into Moria during an expedition to reclaim it, and now you must escape Moria through the Eastern Gate. You entered through a hole near Durin's Gate. No other dwarves are coming to help because you ended up in there in an explosion accident. You have to get out on your own. And so you have to explore Moria, gather materials, repair forges, upgrade yourself so that you can take on the darks of Moria.
Which is, I mean, as far as the story, it is amazing, and how it keeps to Tolkien's work is amazing. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't. I, I could see the Tolkien estate actually approving this as canon.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did so much work into it. There's so much they did and so much love they put into this game. They specifically didn't invalidate anything. They took some leaps. Certainly, they took some leaps. And I'm not going to reveal those leaps because it's an integral part of the story. And I firmly
Yeah.
believe that you guys should experience this story for yourselves.
Oh yeah, and like I said, because this is an indie game and not one of these what
AAA.
AAA games, it's cheap.
Like a $25 game.
Yeah, for me, I found that it was so worth it. I ended up paying 60. I bought it 3 times.
He for reference, he gifted it to me, and then he wanted the Steam bundle as well. So he got it on PC, Xbox, and then gifted it.
Yeah, it is amazing. Just I have read through, I think, almost every part of the story in this game,
And
as far as
so,
the lore.
with a very simple story, the game gets to focus on its gameplay, the survival aspects, the limited resources, the darkness, needing to sleep, needing to defend your home. Um,
Making sure you eat when you eat, to get different effects. What foods you eat, because there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Um, Whether or not you want to drink stuff, because there's mead.
your dwarves. and how you drink it and how long you take, whether your home is safe, whether you get sieged, whether you trip a horde. Gameplay wise, it has a bit of a complicated feel to it in a simplistic way.
Yeah.
There is so much built into this that when you're playing through, you may not realize it because they expect you to learn as you go.
And they do not hold your hand very much. I mean, the first part is tells you what to grab to eat and what's considered food, but as far as uh where to find materials, how to find new recipes and stuff like that, they do not hold your hand whatsoever. I mean, there was points that I had we had to look up several things to figure out how to how to do it.
Yeah, and you don't have to look it up. You learn as you go. Most of the stuff you learn. The game has one of the funniest systems that not funniest, funnest systems that I've seen in a while. Because I play Clank the board game.
Yeah, and it does have almost a clank system as you delve further into Moria, and go mining for longer and make more noise. Uh, you get a higher chance of triggering a horde.
Yep. The higher chance of training. Um, oof, our audio just had some issues. Um, not just triggering a horde, but like there's a chance that when you're in base near one of your hearths, you could get sieged.
Yeah, and
And these sieges don't mess around.
brought a cave troll.
They brought cave troll. They do not mess around. And because they don't mess around, there's so much to defending your base. Like, they're going to try to destroy your hearths. You get a bonus for being victorious.
Yeah,
I'm peeking out.
not only do they target your hearts, they also target your gold hoards.
And they try to
wanna
steal your stuff.
gold. And as a dwarf, nobody touches my gold.
Yeah, nobody touches our gold.
Sorry, I was watching the gameplay footage because it.
We've got footage going on in the background. This is just stuff that we've captured in our playthrough. Like I said, the game is well made. It is brilliantly made. I love it. The simple play styles that you go into, that eventually turn into team tactics. This is not a game that's meant to be played alone.
But you can. It is set up so you can play it by yourself, but you can also play the entire thing in a company of up to 4 dwarves. And if you're playing the sandbox, you can get up to I think 10.
Now, okay, back on track when we're talking about gameplay. The building aspect with this, made sure they had the snap. Your base design matters, how you build it, where you build it.
What material you use because you unlock better materials as you go along.
The gameplay is just well sorted combat. I need to talk about combat. Like I said a moment before Jake derailed us, in combat there are multiple different play styles that play into each other. And it forms into strategies. Like we said, this game is not meant to be played alone. You're meant to play as a company of dwarves. And because you're meant to play as a company of dwarves, you fight as a company of dwarves.
Yeah, me and Isaiah had a really good system when we were playing. He had this sword and shield, or a one-handed weapon and a shield, where he could block most of our attacks. I stayed in the back to hit the heavy attacks with one of our heavy weapons, whether it was an axe, a mattock, or a great sword. I would hit him as hard. I would do a charged attack to get both the rune effect and the uh, high damage on them, as well as to knock them back further so they stay ahead of us.
Yeah, and so our strategy was the basic form a line. I'm on the front lines. Jake's right behind me, closing in to smash away. He also focuses any orcs that might come around, so we don't get flanked.
Yeah.
The game has multiple different playstyles. You know, you have the two-handed, you've got the one-handed, you have the ranged people, but you find it as you go. You organically find your playstyle, and they're all valid. up until the final boss. That is my one complaint that I have about the combat. Is the final boss damage against the final boss is locked to a specific weapon.
But you do unlock a second weapon after that boss fight, so when you replay it, because this game has amazing replayability where you can also continue with your current dwarf.
Hey, you're jumping to replayability, Jake. You're still jumping. Now, okay. So coming into combat, again, that my complaint is when you initially take on the final boss. I would say more about what the final boss is, but that really spoils the story of Moria. But damage against the final boss is locked behind a spear. When I say locked, it means you can't deal damage without this spear. It's the only weapon they give you to take down the final boss, which story-wise is great. Um, like everyone slayed the boss with the same weapon.
And not only that, but this, as far as the story goes with that weapon, um, the weapon itself is good to continue for a future story eventually.
Yeah, and they set it up. The team wants to do more with this. That's the thing. Um, Going back to the team that designed this, I believe it's called Middle Earth Industries was the developers, or maybe that's the Tolkien estate. I'm not sure which one. I need to double check which one's the actual developers, because they both had credits. But they wanted two things. They wanted to make sure they got it right. They stuck to the vision that the professor, Professor J.R.R. Tolkien, had for the Lord of the Rings and for Middle Earth, and so they wanted to stick with that vision. Down to places that you conquer.
Yeah, there's stuff that it doesn't matter how much you fight it, you're not gonna kill it. It uh, we almost died to it. We had to run. But I've watched several interviews with the developers, and they said that's the point. They designed it to not for you not to beat it. It was designed for you to run from.
Yeah, there are, and we're having audio issues. Check. Okay, that I don't know what's going on with our audio. But wow, good lord. Go ahead, Jake.
Oh, I lost my train of thought. But so as far as the actual, we were continuing with gameplay. Um, how part of the gameplay is also being able to learn how to farm, so you can conjure your inner hobbit
And
and
make
create a
breakfast
garden.
and second breakfast and have your garden outside your base and where you grow your food. You can have your inner hobbit. That is off topic from where we were at, but that's part of the survival aspect of the game that we had talked about before. Um, but the vision of Middle Earth. I'm going to reiterate what Jake said because our audio cut out there. Um, there are places in this game, just like in Tolkien's world, the deepest parts of the world, the darkest parts of the world, there are places that are never meant to be conquered. And you cannot conquer them. They are dangerous.
It's not going to stop me from trying.
And there are nameless things down there. Game design wise, it's a terrible idea. You can't conquer this section. From a game design perspective, it doesn't work. Because this is Tolkien, it works.
Yeah.
They're always in threat down there. It may have the best resources, but you are always in threat. It is always dangerous to be down there. And down there, being down there has its
Well,
rewards, and the nameless things can come for you.
what I love is so the atmosphere that they put in this area, in the deeper areas that you go to that you cannot conquer, is perfect.
Well, they haven't the app. We'll talk about the atmosphere the entire game.
Well, this specific area, because like you said, you cannot conquer it, and how you feel when you're wandering around down there, you feel like you can't conquer it. You want to get out.
You are not meant to be there, but they have that. They have that feeling through the entire game, which is really good. As you settle down, as you get more comfortable, as you get stronger, you're like, no, no, I can take it. This I can turn this into my home. But the initial part of the game and every new area that you unlock, when you're in there at first, you have the feeling that I am not supposed to be here.
Yeah, and I mean, we would go from the Western Gate to the over to the Elven Quarter. You could not the jump that you had to make there was it was something simple where you just needed to get the resources to build new weapons, but then when you got further in and and had to get harder materials to obtain, you'd get stuck. So you had to focus on obtaining those materials to move forward. So you knew and that's where Isaiah was saying that you had feel like you're not supposed to be there because y- you have underleveled gear that you can't
But you have to be there to get better gil. You're not supposed to be here, but you have to be here to conquer it.
to get your gear.
And that is so Lord of the Rings.
Oh, big time.
That is so Tolkien. You're not supposed to be here. Yeah, you're right. We're not. We are not supposed to be here.
I mean, look at it.
We are not supposed to be in Moria. Moria does not belong to the dwarves anymore.
Not yet.
Moria, at the time of this game, belongs to the orcs and the goblins. The Balrog may be gone, but the orcs are still there. This takes place in the Fourth Age after the fall of Sauron.
And how they did it was amazing because they also incorporated the fall of Sauron
I will
in
say
the
the
story.
final showdown in the Balrog's lair is amazing. The Balrog is gone, but what took its place could be worse.
Oh, it was
And the fight, I think we were just way too overtuned for the end fight because it didn't feel as climactic, but we were so overtuned for that fight. Like
we had to run a lot.
twice, yes. But the actual fight at the end,
Final boss was actually
it was difficult. I liked it. It was hard.
especially because we did it when we went into it. We knew we needed the spear, but we didn't know we both needed the spear to do damage.
So Jake brought a pickaxe instead of the spear that you need.
Yeah,
And so the entire end fight, I was the only one hitting it.
I was trying to keep its attention. It
But
ate me.
overall, the end fight aside, other than the fact that I kind of felt it wasn't as climactic as it could be, but that's because we were overtuned.
I mean, we could play it again and turn up the difficulty.
We were way overtuned. We had so many buffs that we went into the fight, and when we went in there after that thing, I slaughtered it in one big go. Now, overall, as we look back at the game, as we look back at the game, this is a bit of a shorter episode because how I describe Return to Moria is a simple meal well made.
Oh yeah,
It's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing extraordinary. But there is plenty of love in the dish. There's enough that it's really good. There's a hearty portion and more with sandbox.
yeah. Which they just added the sand
Yeah, they just
stuff,
added the sandbox.
and like you were saying, they kept it simple to make so they could focus on making the game right.
They wanted their vision to come through, and it does. It does. You feel like you're retaking Moria. Every area you clear, every base you build,
Every orc city you'd conquer.
you feel like you're retaking Moria. That's why I say it's nothing extraordinary. There's nothing new here. Survival aspects aren't new.
Yeah, these are survival aspects you'll find in other games.
The weapon fighting and the weapon style, it's not new. It's dodge and parry, right?
Yeah,
Dodge and parry, simple combat system. Dodge and parry, dodge, parry, attack. Strong attack, light attack. We've all seen it before. But they blend it in a way that makes it work really well. Like I said, it's a simple meal, well made.
I've- so I don't know if Isaiah has, but I have gone through and read pretty much every single thing that we've discovered in Moria.
No, I haven't.
And when you read through it all, it makes the game even better.
The lore adds something to the game. And that's what you need out of a Tolkien work. Is the lore adds something. I'd like to talk about another game that I enjoyed, but didn't follow through in the same way that these groups did, and decided to take liberties with the lore that is breaking it. Because the thing about this team is they didn't break the lore. They didn't do anything that directly contradicts it.
And that's why I said I could honestly see the Tolkien estate actually saying that honestly this could be canon.
And they cover it in an area of the lore where there isn't much. In the fourth page, we hear that the dwarves retake Moria.
But not only that, but if you look throughout all of Tolkien's writing, there is not a lot lore and history for the dwarves.
There's a reason for that. Because Tolkien's lore is very centered on the children of Iluvatar.
Yes.
And the dwarves are not children of Iluvatar.
Which it allows them to be able to create uh, a much better story that does not directly contradict stuff.
They don't need to contradict stuff. They didn't add a bunch of stuff to the lore. All they did was say, in the fourth age, the dwarves retook Moria. All they said is this is how it happened. The end boss is taking what the boss is and the main enemy of the game is might be taking some liberties, but they're believable.
And when you read through it, all of the information and listen to the dialogue that is said, it actually makes more and more sense. Um, as well as why the a lot of the different enemies are showing up in Moria.
Yeah, it makes sense. They make everything make good and kind of tie it into the lore really well. Now, we're gonna wrap up soon. This is a bit of a shorter episode because it's a simple game. There's not much here, and we can't talk about the story. In a lot of our games, a lot of our shows, and a lot of our reviews, we talk about the story. I always talk about the story. I cannot talk about the story here because I firmly believe that this story is one you should experience for yourself.
Yes, and not only that, but play it multiple times because you can play it in different ways.
Play it in the sand. Like once you finish, play the sandbox.
I've started the sandbox. The sandbox is so much harder than the campaign.
But it was meant to be.
Yeah.
The sandbox was meant to be harder. And they do really well about that. Overall, what would you give this game?
So as far as story, oh, 10 out of 10 on story. But overall, I'd have to say an 8. Just because there are some uh bugs and exploits that we discovered
that were game breaking.
Yeah.
Story wise, I give the game an 8. I can't give it a perfect score. I can't give it higher than an 8 because I felt like the final fight was not as climactic as I felt it should be. I think the enemy was too small. I think the area was not designed in a way that was suitable for a super climactic fight.
Well, the boss fight was a 3-part boss fight.
Yeah, I know, but that last arena where you actually fight the boss, it was too small for me. I wanted that thing moving around. I wanted that thing trying to kill us. I didn't want it trapped in the light. I wanted it.
Stuck in a corner somewhere.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You don't feel like you're driving it into a corner. If the end game was meant for you to drive it into a corner, it did not feel like you were doing that.
Yeah.
So
Because
honestly,
it felt more like we were gonna get killed.
I give it a 7. It is a simple meal, well made. Now,
So
I'm going to say this. We don't score things like other things.
not only that, but
1 to 10, 5 is average. This game is above average, a couple points above average. It is nothing revolutionary, but it's fun.
well, you also didn't read all the lore that I did. As far as the lore, all the lore makes a huge difference in this game because it explains so much while you're going through Moria,
And a lot of players will not read.
which is sad because it does make a massive difference.
I give it a 7. Jake gives it a 10. I mean,
And
an 8.
I give it an 8 because, like I said, we did find some exploits that made it way too easy to get materials.
Yeah. I'm going to send a message to a dev about it. Maybe get it fixed. But overall, 7 out of 10. It's a good game. For $25, pick it up.
It is
Money
well
for the
worth it.
price for what you're getting. Ooh, boy, you cannot beat it.
Yeah, it is well worth it. I mean, not only that, but most games when they get released, I am able to take, and if I like my schedule is now where I have 3 days off in a row, beat in 3 days.
Which one?
This one took me 2 weeks. I could not beat it.
We could not in our normal time, and we are suffering some audio issues again. We couldn't beat it. Keep talking, Jack. I don't know if it's me.
And that's just because you get to areas that you have to take your time to make it through. But it still makes it fun.
Just Jake. Right.
Uh, speak.
Well, Jake's camera fell off. So we are actually going to wrap it up here. All good. I recommend picking up Return to Moria.
We're going to continue streaming it too.
Yes. I am going to put out a short. I am issuing a challenge. If you want to see someone suffer, for every like we get on the short, we will explore a new room in Sandbox.
Oh, jeez. We'll start a sandbox game and
Yep. Every subscriber is an orc slain.
now, are we going to be doing this with uh new dwarves?
It will be new dwarves.
Oh,
We won't be bringing our dwarves in there.
oh gosh.
We want to make it challenging. We want to see you guys. It will also be on stream. So every like, every subscriber is an orc slain and a room explored.
We're going to die. A lot.
Till next time, we'll see you guys later.